This is Power 102 Digital Friday. On a Friday, the Fathers Association hosts Hard Talk. And the topic today, challenges of parenting. We have Rondell Fields and Shervon on the set. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey, good afternoon, Mark. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us as always. Good afternoon, Shervon.
Afternoon, brother. How you doing? Good. How you doing, Mark?
I'm, I'm, I'm
I'm
good. I'm good. How the week been treating you guys?
fair to find.
Right,
Well,
right.
you scattered
So,
showers.
so Mark, I'm going to send you the email address for Sergeant Small. It slipped him to send me. He didn't know the procedure, and you're going to get him on because we need Sergeant Small for this discussion today. Siobhan, before and while we waiting to get Sergeant Small on, what I could just give you all a little update on, Siobhan. Today we went down to the Tabakit composite, the Tabakit Secondary School. We went down there to have a little discussion with the youth down there, but and I must say, I was so impressed with the young people down there. After we spoke to them, it had one particular young man that really, really touched my boy. After he heard myself, he heard Pastor Dutton, he heard Constable Seeley. He came up to me with tears in his eyes. He said, Mr. Fields, tell me what to do. I want to change. I just get trouble. I mean, I gave a little history when I was talking to them about even my days troublesome in school. And you saw genuine, I mean, tears in his eye. I want a way I want some guidance. I want you to give me some advice when you was my age for me to alter my behavior. For me to, and sometimes I think that the children have it all put together, but sometimes you need to say the right thing. Sometimes you need to just touch them in the right place to get them to break, to get them to say, I think there's an opportunity for me to change. So today, I must say, I had a splendid time down in Tabagi there. I know Sergeant Small was the one who extended the invitation to us to come down. It's something that we do. We partner with them a lot past that button as well. And I must also, before I switch over to you, Shervon, and I send the link for Sergeant Small, I must take my hats off to Pastor Dutton in a special way. Pastor Dutton has been doing this so long, mentoring so many people since I was a little boy. I remember seeing Pastor Dutton in schools, on TV, in church, motivating young people unafraid. He always talk about he ain't afraid gangsters and how many threats to his life that he would have taken. He's always in any event they invite him to, particularly when it deals with school children. I don't know if he got a national award as yet, but boy, he's supposed to have one of the highest orders for the contribution he's made to our general national landscape. So much that the principal today at Tabakit said that she went to school. When she went to school, Pastor Dutton was one of the people that came to the school in her days. And I mean, she seemed to be a lady, was possibly well over 50 or so. And that goes to show or serve as testament for the type of dedication and commitment that Pastor Clive Dutton has when it comes to working with young people, particularly at-risk young people, boys. So I just want to salute him before anything. Siobhan?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think anybody in Trinidad and Tobago could say that they are not familiar with the work, the contributions of Pastor Clive Dutton. Good afternoon, Susan. Good afternoon, Sunil. God's blessings to you all. Good evening to you all. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. And thank you all for tuning into Hard Talk this and every Friday. Mark, as always, thanks to the Power 102 team for seeing the need to give fathers and men a space for their voice and their issues to be heard in Trinidad and Tobago across the region and internationally. Mark is flashing the numbers to contact or engage with us on air right now. So if you want to call, it's 222-8255. And if you're in the US or Canada, there's a toll-free number, 866-525-1099. And WhatsApp only, it's 868-318-1021. Today's topic, we're looking at the challenges with parenting. Because in the last couple of weeks, we have seen, and not just in the last couple of weeks, I mean, whether it makes news or not, every parent will know, feels. Every parent will know that parenting is not a bed of roses, right?
True.
You do have, yesterday I shared with you all a video, Rondell, where this child in the US committed suicide because he was engaging with some AI program, right? And
Correct.
and the AI program encouraged him to commit suicide, which he did.
Suicide.
And I mean, oh gosh, we didn't have them challenges growing up, right? We had different kind of challenges, but
Correct.
no, the kind of things parents had to contend with and learn. As I was telling the guys in the fathers group on Telegram, I was saying that parents have to keep up to date now, brothers.
Correct.
Parents have
Correct.
to
With
keep up to date
technology
because
and
all kind of things out there your kids could get involved in that you will not find in the bag. Long time you hide a magazine you shouldn't have somewhere, right? And they find it because it's physical. But now it's the
it's
digital
harder to
world.
find.
Yes.
It's harder to find. And what's so amazing about that case there is that this young boy seemed to develop feelings for this chatbot.
Yeah.
And this chatbot would have been having, sexual conversations from what I heard on some news reports with the young man. Because, sometimes, boy, the intelligence of man sometimes sometimes has put us in some predicaments thereafter. Because who would know that this AI device would have gained the intelligence, possibly from whatever research or however it's been educating itself, to have a full-fledged conversation that is so meaningful with an immature child that it in some sense AI groom the child.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have created these Autobots, so to speak, that have now created sexual perpetration upon children to some level and manipulation.
Yeah.
So how we going to treat with that? Even if you say you want to sue the tech company, you want to whatever, a life is already lost. No one foresaw, all the technocrats, all the higher level, the persons of higher level of intelligence didn't foresee, didn't forecast something like this. Or even if they did, they stayed silent about it.
Yeah.
Hoping that it never happened. But we're seeing a chatbot, so to speak, that was able to engage, or I don't know if he's the one that engaged it in the first place.
Well, yeah, he engaged it in the first place, but
Right.
thereafter, as you said, it sexually groomed him.
But that's what I'm saying. So where was the checks and balances put in place, or possibly there wasn't any foresight that this could happen, that they develop a code, what they had the code to prevent it from happening?
Yeah.
Which is frightening to me, which is totally frightening to me. If it could be done verbally already, then maybe they didn't project the foresight that even physically, with all the physical, we seeing all these robots coming out now as well. Things that we used to see on Jetsons is a reality now. The things that they're saying that you could get these robots, put them in your home, and they're going to do all the things, all the domestic needs that you need them to do, take care of the children, do all these. These are some of the things that you're seeing being touted there already, particularly by our brother Elon Musk. You understand? And these cars that they're up there, these cars we have that we trust them to drive us on their own, think for themselves. What are the things? What can happen? What are the things? And are we really, as I say, as parents and humans, and better preparing ourselves so as to better prepare our children to expect these things? But the thing we really here for the main point. Come again?
Let me slip this in before you digress.
Right.
Stashil, good evening, Stashil. Thanks for joining us. I hope I pronounce your name properly. No more than ever, we need parents on the same page.
Correct.
Because if we have all of these things that are able to infiltrate the minds and the psyche of children, we can't have parents so focused on warring with each other that they're missing, right? What is happening? And no more than ever, you need the both parents active. You can't be alienated and having tried, because you need 4 eyes. You need 2 pairs of eyes right? To
Correct.
monitor what happening, what these children getting involved in, and the things that are attracting their attention and pulling them away. So
Correct.
that to me yesterday, that case we were looking at is a siren that
Mm-hmm.
parents, we need to train the focus on the children and to navigate them through these very young and could be treacherous years of their life if we are
Correct.
not careful. It would be treacherous based on the things that could pull them away from a part of productivity and morality.
I mean, I concur. I concur entirely. Um, I got because I mean this we just had a big campaign when we were talking about issues that took place in schools with the bullying and the bullying that led to little Jaden taking his life and these kind of things. And if we're seeing in this aspect something that we could consider or call sexual grooming taking place to a position where it actually pushed a child to take his own life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what else can we not think can happen going forward? I mean, cyberbullying and I think that's an easier practice for it to learn. To me, I would have expected sexual grooming to be at a higher degree for that AI bot to get to be able to perform. But I mean cyberbullying should be easy if that is the case.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, we're talking about, I mean, part of our discussion here today mainly would have been centered on some of the things that happen physically in our space. But you're right, Shervon, we really have to take on the aspects when it comes to the technological advancement because we may be trying to protect everything from one physical aspect where we're looking at it, hey, the children in your school and the teachers in the school. But then there are so many ways that our children, this generation of children, are so now connected. That is worrisome. That
Mm-hmm.
is through these technological devices. You're talking about games. They expose a person on games, and then we always hear the TTPS talk about this dark web. When Sergeant Small gets here, we could possibly probe his mind when it comes to those things. What are the aspects? What type of protection, if any, does the TTPS provide for that? Does the TTPS, in other words, the cyber unit, are they trained to be able to assist or to be able to counteract these kind of things or at least detect it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cybersecurity and all these things. These are things now where we're seeing that we are at risk on different levels. Even the things we've created to make our lives easier are now posing threats to both children and ourselves because I'm pretty sure that some adults may be susceptible to these same things as well.
Yes. Yeah. There are, I've
Understand?
seen in documentaries, there are apps, virtual dating apps where the person dating a AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew those things exist. I did not know that in this sense because this what they call character AI, I think is the name of the application or platform. That I don't know much about it until I stumbled upon that news clip yesterday. But this wasn't marketed in that way, right? And so this is how possibly the parents got caught off guard, not knowing the conversation that it
Mm-hmm.
had twisted to where, for those of you who missed, the AI was saying to the child, take your life and so that we could be together.
Be together.
Yeah.
You
And
understand?
unfortunately, the child took his life.
Hmm. Hmm. So I mean, guys, you could jump in, guys online, guys hearing our voice, you could jump in to the discussion, put your messages in the chat, call in if you want to call in. We're about to get into the discussion. If you want to contribute when it comes to any part of this that we already started talking on already, where it comes to the technological advancement. And though we were promised that it would be beneficial, we're now seeing many aspects of it that is actually causing stress to our daily well-being and our children's. If you have a view, if you have a suggestion, if you think that we are in Trinidad and Tobago prepared or ready to treat with issues like that if they arise, just let us know your views. Let us know your standpoint on these things here right now. So Shervon, let me jump into it until Sergeant Small gets here. So this week,
Mm.
we got the information that a child attacked another child with a knife. I can't say the information wasn't totally forthcoming to say if the child was stabbed. To say, I don't know if you picked up any other thing on any other media or Shervon, but I saw it was a knife attack of some sort. And what is alleged is that the parents of the child that was the victim returned to the school the next day. I think it was two female individuals, and they sought revenge, I believe, through violence. Right? They, in other words, retaliated on behalf of the child and and assaulted the other child. What's your view on that, Shervon? I run into guest Sergeant Small listening.
All right. So, I mean, we don't encourage violence of any form, right? Whether it is intimate partner violence, whether it is this type of violence, where a parent, and we've seen this happen many times in our country, where parents have gone to the defense of their children and use violence to address the alleged bully in a situation. But as a parent, I can understand that rush of blood to your head, right? I mean, I have been in circumstances throughout my children's life where there are things that happen where, again, as I say, you get a rush of blood to your head and you feel that either say something stupid or do something stupid, right? The difference at the end of the day is, are you going to act it out, right? On what are the measures in place or what are the mechanisms in place to respond to when your child is being bullied? And that bullying could be from a teacher, that bullying could be from another child in the school, right? Or somebody in the neighborhood, or whatever the case may be. What are the mechanisms that are available? Because as I say, as a parent, Rondell, I was saying,
Right?
we all get a rush of blood to we head when something happens.
Understandable. Understandable.
That is understandable. We get that rush of blood. But what example are we setting when we do decide that the way to deal with it is violence, right? And I have a counterpointed, but I'm waiting for Sergeant Small to come on for me to address him with that. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, but definitely, I agree with you. You must get that push shot of adrenaline. Because there's your child. There's my baby. They know how they get big so. You wasn't there. I went through this with my child. I do that for my child. I do the other for my child. But as they rightfully say, and I mean, at least I would suggest, you have to consider now what is the next and best action that you should take. Is it automatically going to be retributive violence as well? In this particular scenario, you have to look at the consequences of what your actions will be. What that child did something, we understand that was wrong, whether if it was a knife attack, whether if it was whatever, let me say your child's life was spared or your child was injured or whatever. We understand that. The consequence of that child's action now could be your action, which the child has not anticipated. So you now as the adult must understand also that even your reaction can also result in another reaction from somebody else as well. So in my view, I think it is good to be upset. When you get upset, you then contemplate on what is the next move forward. What is the move that I believe where I will get some level of justice for my child, while I myself don't put myself in a position where I myself now can become a perpetrator. That is my perspective. Because if I become a perpetrator of violence myself to anybody, the teacher who I thought didn't do something, to the parents of the child, to the child themselves, I may put myself in a position now where I could not just not set the wrong example for my child, but even physically, I may end up with a case and I cannot help my child going forward because I don't want to deliver myself from whatever problem I now put myself in.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard a lot of these social media pundits that was anchoring it on, and that's why I tell people, sometimes or most times, you don't run with every single thing you hear on social media. I understand that the first emotional person can say, "Pa, what are you? Great, best thing for you, good for you." This and encourage his parents who might have done that. But they comment when the police show up by your house. They comment and they comment to assist you when you know after possibly wear a ankle bracelet because they say you assaulted a child. Because a child assaulting one person assaulting another is not going to prohibit you yourself from being arrested if you assault that person. No. That is
And
the
if you're
law.
incarcerated, how you saying about your child?
Correct.
Right?
That is my point exactly.
Go the distance. You didn't go to kill them, but you hit them and bad land to
Correct.
kill them. Now you're inside, right? Who's
But
taking
that's what I
care of your
said.
child now?
You hit the child a blow, the child fall along, the child sick with something, and the child die. You in prison for manslaughter because it wasn't your intent to kill them, but they fall dead anyhow. And you have a consequence to face, and your child left out there facing the wilderness now in a worse and a more frustrated position than before. Because now they lose mommy or they lose daddy because of decision. And it's not only in situations like that we see people tend to lose emotional control and not exercise emotional intelligence. If you know it does hurt me, or I always remember that situation with the father who went by the grocery and he and the policeman that fall out and the man ended up getting killed in front of the children.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember that situation.
That does plague my memory. I just always ask myself, what if one person, either the policeman or the man that just say, "Brother, you park there, you forget." Or if the man that say, "All right, you tell me move from here, brother, I'm moving from the car park." Even if I say, "Boy, you're the RLM's boy," even if he did go to that point and say that, and he had just move. At the end of the day, children wouldn't have been without a father today.
But let me add this there too, right? We talk about when you see videos with school violence, children fighting with children, you hear people condemn the children for egging on the violence, right? Because that is what you see, right? Nobody imparted no fight again. Everybody encouraged it. Fight, 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 right? But adults doing that too. Because we talk about the Russia blood to head. I telling you, brothers, I'm being honest. If I see some of these videos you see now with children beating up children, if God forbid I end up in that situation where that is my child, I am not sure that I would choose non-violence. I'm telling you all. I'm not sure I would choose going to the police first. I'm telling you as man, right?
I understand.
When I watch those things, that's why I don't watch those videos. But when it do happen to catch me, and emotionally, I just lose everything inside of me, right? But that is the why I need brothers like you all around. My own brother. Because when I say I go in and do something stupid,
correct,
that is where you all step in to say, "Hey, Shervon, no.
Don't do that.
They have a next way to do it. Go do it." Right? But what we see as a society, just like you see on social media when you're watching this clip, you have people who are encouraging it. And people who egging it on online, people who egging it on publicly while it's happening. And at the end of the day, nobody's pressing pause, right? Nobody's intervening to the detriment of the adults involved and the child, as we just said. Because when you fire up your brother or your sister, say, "That's my child, I'm taking that. I go down by the school with you." And then after say, you reach there, the child end up badly wounded or dead. Now what? You're sitting now in jail for the next how much years? Your child on the outside now to raise this son. We have to think as a society.
Correct. We see Wendell. I see Wendell join us there, Shervon. Wendell, you've been listening to our show for the last 20 minutes or so. What is your view on what Shervon and I talking about when it comes to dealing with your child going to school and being a victim of violence? And we've seen that happen this week, and we've seen some social media pundits come forward and commend the parents for possibly going and retaliate with violence. What is your take on that? What type of approach you think should be taken in an instance like that as a parent yourself?
Good evening, brothers. Good evening, Mark. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Guys, I've been listening to you all. My position on this whole thing is a little bit different. So, but I wouldn't want to share my position regarding how I have dealt with it personally, because I believe that there's only one way to deal with bullying, and that is to deal with the bully. However, I don't agree with parents who deal with or confront the children that are responsible for the bullying, because I believe that the children are a product of their home environment. They are a product of their parents. If I see a child in school that is a bully, I see the parent character, the parent's nature and parent's behavior, right? So I believe that in a case where there is bullying, you have to deal with the parent and let the parent deal with the child, right? Because children are minors, and an adult going to confront a minor could get, as you always saying, get that adult parent in very serious problems. I do not agree with it. I do not support it. I do not encourage that kind of behavior. Right? When I went to school in my community, I was bullied at school. My children were bullied at school, and I dealt with it. But I am different from a lot of people, and I deal with things different, and I got results, right? However, I agree that violence is not the way to go. However, we are living in a society where there is a nonchalant approach, a very lackadaisical approach to a lot of the social diseases and ills of our society, right? I mean, as single fathers and as men in this country, we have faced that lackadaisical attitude and behavior coming from the protective services when we have issues with regards to our rights being infringed and us being abused by our spouses or significant others, as people would like to say, right? The lackadaisical approach is no different when it comes to bullying. I mean, I know a lot of parents who have gone to the police station to report bullying, and the police response to that would be that is not a police matter, that's a matter for the school and the Ministry of Education. I have also discovered that a lot of the bullying that takes place in school is never reported to the Ministry of Education, because the principal and the teachers keep it covered up so that both the school could look good and the Minister of Education could look good also, right? So sometimes when we hear the minister, whether it be the present, the current one, or past one, say that there is no bullying in school, and they are not aware of any bullying taking place in school, they could well be talking the truth, because the schools are in the habit of not reporting it because they want to look good, they want to maintain their prestigious names and so on. And that's something that is very, very critical in our society. A lot of people are more interested in maintaining the prestige rather than addressing the disease, so that they could continue to benefit from the prestigious names rather than deal with the problems that are taking place in the society, right? But I will say this: bullying must be dealt with. It must be nipped in the bud as soon as it starts, right? And whoever is responsible, whoever has responsibility, whether it is the school or the Ministry of Education, when bullying reaches in the school environment has to deal with it. However, bullying should never reach the school environment if parents train their children properly. If you're raising gremlins and sending them to school, that's what they're going to behave as. They're going to take advantage of people's children, right? And you know what? It irks me and it confuses me how parents could see their child on a video beaten out unmercifully or mercilessly beating somebody else's child, on the road like a frog, like a crapple, like a dog, and that parents does nothing, does not deal with their child. That is what I want to know. Because you see, outside of the school gate, right? The Ministry of Education does not have jurisdiction over those children outside of the school gate. In the general public, the upbringing, the training, and the guidance of parents at home is what will determine the character and behavior of their children outside of the school gate in the public, right? So I always say, we in this country, we have a people problem, you know. When you see children behaving in that manner, that's the parents that they have. Whether it is by omission or by commission, their parents are responsible and encouraging them to do that nonsense.
I hear you, Wendell. I hear you, and I agree with a lot of what it is you're saying there. Let me read some of the comments so that we have online. We have a lot of comments coming in. So, good afternoon again, all the viewers, those who are just joining. We're talking about some of the challenges that parents are facing in today's society. So, Winston, good afternoon. Winston says, he said a child died some weeks ago from bullying. The school, when he was bullied, didn't do anything. So sometimes the parent have to step in to defend their child. And Winston, we agree, parents have to step in. The point we are making is how parents step in. If we step in an irresponsible manner, we could make the situation worse, right? And that is to your point that Nina, thanks for joining us and thanks for your comment, right? Nina said sometimes the bully needs manhandling big time. Again, we're saying yes, the bully needs to be treated and parents have to defend their children, but you don't want to do it in such a way that lands you in jail, right? And now your child out there to fend for himself against the world. And you may not go with the intention, as we were saying earlier, to kill anybody, right? But how many times have we seen somebody get a bad lash, they fall and hit the head, and they're badly wounded after that, or they're dead, right? And then your child had to fend for yourself while you sit down there to go through now the criminal justice system for your matter to be heard. So we understand the need to defend your children. We're not saying no defend your children. In fact, I can give you an example where my son was being bullied in school and he was being bullied by a teacher, right? And I went into the school after writing on numerous occasions, and I made it clear to the administration that I was prepared to take every step under the law to address the bullying that was being meted out against my son. And eventually it yielded results. They did what they needed to do on their end. So again, I am not saying we don't defend, but we're saying we need to do so responsibly, right? Kevin, good evening. Thanks for your comment. Thanks for your comment. Good evening, everyone.
And retain Shervon, just to deal with the topics there as well. We had to understand as well that sometimes a lack of, or let me say lack of education, let me say sometimes ignorance, sometimes makes it harder for us to intervene in an effective way. And we had to be real and honest about that. The easiest and the quickest thing to do, as I rightfully say, any one of us, me myself, see your children being harmed, see your children being hurt, the quickest thing is for your blood to rush their head. You're seeing violence meted out of them. You tell yourself here what? I want to met violence back out of the next person. I want to get them back the same kind of justice they give my child. First things first. And that to you is always the easiest thing. And let me be real, it may be the easiest thing for you to do, but would it be the wisest thing for you to do? That is where we coming in with this point here. Would it be the wisest thing? And if you go to a police station with the ignorance that you're telling them that, hey, my child is being bullied, there's no law to treat with bullying. To say my child was bullied, there is no law that they could take it from that criminal aspect. But if your child getting taxed, you could go and see your child get robbed. Treat with it.
If your child is to treat it from a bullying aspect, there are laws,
huh?
There are laws.
Yeah, but they're not laws. They're not laws that would bullying. So there's laws like harassment. There's laws that you could go and you could say you was robbed, you could say you was assaulted, all these things, because many times these are the things that taking place. The reason we generalize it as bullying is because it's taking place in our school and it is conducted by a minor.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I thought Sergeant Small will tell you that when he come on as well. But
Gentlemen, let me interject here. I have a caller on the line who wants to get in.
okay, no problem.
Afternoon, caller.
Afternoon, caller. How are you?
Yeah, I am fine, thank you. Good afternoon, right?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, I just want to make a small contribution there
Mm-hmm.
concerning the anger. I don't know if you all have, I listen from the very beginning, and I don't know if you all have used that word as yet for the absent. Anger.
Right.
But anger is what you all are talking about here with regard to retaliation and going back to school with a knife and revenge and all these things. They come under the heading of anger, right? And even one of you mentioned that, you know, as big man as you are, you weren't sure that you will go back and that you will retaliate and put it like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
now, what I want to say about it is this. Right? You may know this already, but let me just put it in this form.
Yeah, man.
Anger has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It arises, it has a duration, and it passes. So the speed with which it does that is not normally taken, is not normally known or seen because of habit, because of tendency, because of how we are socialized, etc., etc. Right? We are this and that and the other, and we act with anger. You know the words, right? You have been talking about it all afternoon. So what I am suggesting, and I'm not suggesting from theory, I'm suggesting from years of practice. I'm suggesting from years of practice that one needs to calm the mind, right? In meditation, there is no other way, right? One needs to calm the mind and practice in meditation in order so that one could begin to slow down the process. Not necessarily begin to see when even when it's arising, because in the practicing and in the training, it will recur. If it's a habit, and depending on the intensity of the habit, it is going to recur time and time again at the intensity. But if one is willing, you have to use meditation. I am deliberately using that word because, you know, people have all kind of ideas about what meditation and does and so on and so forth. It involves sitting down quietly, calming the mind through a process by which one is able to see when anger is either arising or is present, so that you can act from there. Otherwise, the tendency will occur over and over into adult life. And it is good to know that you all have interacted, like today, in Tabakit with children, and have Pastor Dutton present there, and so on. It is good to know that you all have the opportunity to interact with children, because you do, you need to learn Well, I'm not putting it in a kind of derogatory, I know and you don't know. But I have to use the word learn. And I have to use it in a parallel to the word practice. You all have to learn and practice how to do this so you can tell it to them. You have to find ways to tell it to the children. Because I am telling you, man, as man, there is no other way. You can do life skills, you can go therapist, you can do whatever you want. If you cannot calm the mind, it will not work. Because, let me repeat, I've said it and it may have glossed over. It doesn't work only for anger. It works for other antisocial behavior too. And I am telling you this because I am a practitioner of it. And it might, I do not know how long it will take for you. I do not know how long it will take for a child. I cannot tell you, give you a time span to say, look, this will take 6 months and then everything is over. That is not how it works. Continuous training is necessary, but I can guarantee you that it is only meditation in whatever form that it takes place that is going to solve that situation called anger. Anger, let me end here now. Anger is a process. It is not a flash that just takes place, zoom, and you do whatever you want, or you decide that you walk away and all that kind of thing. Does anger, and no time for that. Anger is anger, and it does what it does. And you got to sit quietly, allow the mind to be calm, to be still, to observe what's happening in the mind over and over and over and over and over until you can. It's not something that really you are going to be doing. Let me just end here. It is something that you're going to allow to be done.
Caller, thank you very much for.
Allow to be done.
Thank you very much for that contribution, caller. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Thanks for calling in.
And I mean, it's true. We have to find strategies of anger management. And meditation is one of those things. I mean, a lot of ways also that you can release stresses and even anger. I know he's heavy on the meditation part, and I can say it is a common experience as well to sit to meditate. As he said, some people always think meditation is mumbo jumbo, but even for Christians, if you really read your Bible, you've seen meditation, supplication, all these things have been mentioned as things that are beneficial.
Meditate on the word day and night. This
Correct. So I mean, there are a lot of people also who express a lot of a release of anger and anxiety, which is another troublesome emotion when it comes to exercise, when it comes to taking walks through to nature, when it comes to sporting activities. And I think there's a number of these things that possibly we can, as you say, generally, because he coming from a general perspective. He's not just dealing with this scenario, which is a healthy way to look at it as well. If you deal with anger management, you deal with emotional intelligence, those things will trigger and those things will kick in at the times you need it most. So you might get angry, but as you say, you would understand there's a high rise, and if you treated it properly, it could have a drastic fall in the anger, and then possibly to allow you to have the opportunity to think through any action or reaction that you may be considering. Because I see Sergeant Small there. Sergeant Small.
Let me just say thanks to all the comments. We have a lot of comments.
Everyone.
What are you saying? Hold on a second, Sergeant. What are you saying, Shervon?
I'm saying thanks to all the people who commented. We have a lot of comments coming in. So thank you all for engaging. Thanks for your comments. Keep
commenting. We'll get to them.
Right. Good evening, Rodney, Prince, and others who are commenting. Sergeant Small, how are you going, brother?
Good, by God's grace, gentlemen. Thanks to the inviter. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I enjoying the discussion thus far, and I'm looking forward to contributing.
Well, before that, Sergeant Small, I had to say thanks to you for always involving us in your strategies of intervention, particularly when it comes to the youth, when it comes to your youth programs that you have in schools, the programs that you have in the community. I must say thanks to you for seeing the value in having, us partner with you and us using that multi-sectoral approach when we're going into the school, when we're going into the communities as well. So, give us an idea before we go into the topic at hand. Give us an idea what the community police is meant to do in a space like Trinidad and Tobago. What is the community police role and function in the community? Give us that in a nutshell before we go into it. I know you must answer that 100 times a week.
Before I even go into that layman terms, in terms of what we do day to day and what is expected of us, I must say firstly that the community policing is a philosophy. Community policing is a philosophy and is an organizational strategy that identifies, prioritizes, and solve contemporary problems, including crime, the fear of crime, and overall community decay. So, right, it is founded on 3 core pillars, which are community partnership, 1, organizational transformation, 2, and shared problem solving. And what it's basically saying is that is an idea. The idea behind community policing is really where the police and the people working together. And I must mention Sir Robert Peel, who was a British Prime Minister from the 1800s, who realized that the police as an organization could not do it alone. So he called together all the senior police officers, and they come up with these 9 policing theories. And one of the theories talk about the police are the public and the public are the police. It means to say that we must work in hand to treat with any problems that are affecting communities, because the truth is the police not in the communities living there sometimes where the police in day to day. So it's important to have the public or the communities involved in what they want to see in the community and how they think some of the problems in the community should be solved. For example, we have the monthly station council meetings, and when we have these meetings, it's where residents are able to come and make their suggestions. Like I see, based on suggestions, some people, in particular the Endeavour flyover area there, it had some multi-sector meeting just this week with the mayor Shervon, where they're looking at having a one-way flow of traffic on the Rodney Road. And I say that to say that it's really this meeting between the police and the community is really to allow the community to have a say in how the police them. Right? So that is the idea behind that. Now, day to day, things that we do as community police officers, especially in the Central Division, we do things like school visits, lectures, interventions on a needs basis, because every school, the demographics, just like community have different demographics, the schools have its different demographics, different culture, and we, from visiting day to day, we start to understand what are some of the problems affecting each school. Now, some of them may be unique, but we have some general problems that are affecting all the schools. Things like substance abuse, things like bullying. Don't feel it happening in the non-denominational schools. All these schools have issues with these topics that we're discussing here. And we try to really go day to day to visit, to connect with the children, connect with the staff, connect with the principal. And it's that is how we realize that the police really cannot do it alone. And that is how, at a very early stage in my community policing experience in Central here, you Mr. feels, through conversations, shared with me, it's important to have this multi-sector approach. And that is where we started the Education Multi-Sector Committee. And arising from all of that, from when we formed the Education Multi-Sector Committee, the Central Education Multi-Sector Committee, we realized that we had to do more targeted interventions. And a spin-off from that out Central Division is functioning like this now, where we could call certain agencies like Fathers Association, because we realized too in the schools, a lot of children coming from single-parent homes, and
going in and out.
Association is an organization with a lot of grown experience in the trenches, interacting with people, understanding what some of the core problems are, the root causes to the problems, and you really give a genuine, input, solutions, You know, so your inputs, and not only you all, but other stakeholders like the Children's Authority, the Children's Court, the Legal Aid and Advice Unit. These were some of the agencies that were part of the Education Multi-Sector Committee when we formed it in 2017. So we continue to go into the trenches, to go into the schools, to go into the communities, to bring agencies, to connect everybody, to come up with meaningful solutions to some of the problems that we are plagued with in society.
So Sergeant Small, let me jump into the discussion that I think we told people we're going to have today. We've seen the issues with bullying.
Right.
I know you can talk about bullying and the whole and the things they've been doing, but in a situation where the bullying or the attack from a child to another involves or leads to rather a parent coming to retaliate physically or retaliate in any form in the school against the teacher, against the child itself, against the parents. What is your view on that? What are the repercussions of that? What are there any repercussions of that? What is your best advice on an issue where a child is a victim of school violence? What manner or what approach do you think a parent should take, knowing that with all the emotion on them, they're angry, they're upset? What is an effective way to get some type of justice that you would suggest from the TTPS?
Well, to be honest, Trinidad and Tobago governed by laws. So we, the police, are the enforcers or one of the organizations attached to the responsibility of enforcing the law. So in a case where you're specifically talking about a parent coming to assault another child, that is against the law. Right? Assault is an act which intentionally or possibly recklessly causes another person to apprehend immediate and unlawful personal violence. So if a person spit on you, that is an assault. If a person point at you and say, "I'll cuff you down, boy," that is an assault. And in the situation where somebody physically assaults someone, and you go to a police station or any police officer that you observe on duty that in uniform, you can approach them and report it to them too, and they have a responsibility to take a report. So you don't have to, for example, if something happened on the street, and you see a
Lost him there, man.
Got frozen
police officer in uniform and go to the station and enter it into. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, we lost it.
Right. So a person have a responsibility. If it is a police in uniform and something happened like an assault or something, they could report it to the police in uniform. So they don't necessarily have to wait to go to the police station. If you see a police in uniform and something happened, you could report it to that police officer in uniform. So what happens is that when someone is assaulted, what should be done is the police should record your report and give you a medical report form and advise you to seek medical attention. So after they record your report and they allow you the opportunity to go to the station, to the medical facility, the public medical health facility, like a health center or hospital, to go to seek medical attention, the doctor there will fill out the medical report form that is issued by the police, and they will enter the information in terms of the degree of the injury. That is how the police will determine what to charge for. If it's a charge for grievous assault or just basic assault, but it depends on the severity of the injury. That is how the police does determine what charge should be there. Because sometimes a person going in, they're thinking it's something minor, they probably get a laceration to the neck or something, and that person could end up dying. They could get a lash to the head, and when they do an X-ray, they realize there are some fractured skull. So that is why you have to get the medical. After you get the medical, and the police, you take back they will give you like a receipt from the medical facility, so that the police could come and retrieve, the investigator could come and retrieve the medical report. Only the investigator can retrieve it. Not any and every police could just go and retrieve a medical. The investigator will retrieve it, and then the investigator should record a written statement from you, which is a written statement. Is not a report I'm talking about. Now, when you make a report, the police have a responsibility to issue out a receipt. So on the receipt, you will see assault by beating, for example. You will see the name of the police officer. You will see the supervisor. Not only the name of the police officer who probably tasked with investigating, but the signature of this or the name of the supervisor or the senior person at that time when the report was made. And they will record a written report from you.
I don't mean to cut you. This also involves students versus students, minors as well, or you're talking about
Yes,
just big
definitely.
people and children?
This is across the board. This is you breach the law, you commit an act of assault, whether it's a child against another child, a parent against a child against a parent. Assault is an assault. Because if you look at the act itself that describes what an assault is, it doesn't say it's only assault if a parent do a child or an adult do a child or a child do a child. It's across the board. There's a definitely is a general definition. So anybody who commits an act of an assault, I mean, I must tie into that we have a Latin term called dola incapax, meaning a child under the age of 8 doesn't possess the mental capacity to commit a criminal offense. So once a child 8 years and over, or over the age of 8, I should say, they have the mental capacity or the mens rea to be able to commit a criminal offense. So once a child is not under the age of 8, the police could take action in terms of arresting and charging for the offense of assault. So after you give your written statement, the detailed account of what happened, the date, time, and place, the police now would be responsible for submitting a file to his immediate supervisor. It will then reach the head of the division or the section, and they will give instructions to charge. And just some years ago, to be honest, one of my officers under my supervision encountered a situation where assault was reported to her, and she charged the alleged offender, which was the other minor. And we submitted the file, and at the time, ASP Meister, who is now the assistant commissioner, he gave instructions or gave recommendation or endorsed our recommendation for the other child to be charged. And the matter went on, and it went before the court and that kind of thing. So the correct thing to do is to report it. We issue the medical report from to seek medical attention, give you a detailed account through a written statement, and as clear-cut as that, somebody could end up before the court, generally.
And in your experience,
okay,
and just 1 second, Shervon, in your experience, Sergeant Small, the consequence of the action, let me say, they said in that matter where the youth was charged, what are some of the consequences or some of the judgments that you have seen judges put towards minors? Because I'm guessing they may not treat them as adults. Is it that they're just as an adult, they send them to prison, they send them YTC? What are some of the ones that you've seen since you've been in the community police or the police on the whole?
Well, from my observation in dealing with minors, the court doesn't just make a quick and rash decision. There's a lot of due process in that they will first assign a probation officer. And when they assign the probation officer, that person or that person has the responsibility to look at the psychosocial aspect of things and to do a background on that child. They will do things like visit the home, interview our family members, interview neighbors, interview the school to get general, genuine perspective on the behavior of that child. And that have a lot of influence in determining how the court going to treat with you. Now, to be honest, from my observation again, it doesn't seem very punitive to like give a jail sentence to a child. And in most cases, children don't have criminal records. So for example, the average citizen, if a man commit an offense and they go before the court and they never committed an offense of a similar nature, the court wouldn't just send you to jail. That is not how it is function. So if it's like a repeat offender, for example, one time the court might have say, well, look, we giving you a fine of this amount. And it happened once and you get a fine. And you probably come back and do it a second time again. You get a next fine. Let me tell you something. The third time, trust and believe, you go see what the jail look like. Right? And some of these offenses, based on the many amendments we are having now, they give you sometimes a fine and a jail time. But for children, as again, they look at if it's a repeat offender, but first-time offenders, whether it's children or adults, unless it's something like, for example, a firearm offense, the court could fine you first time you're appearing. They could jail you first time you're appearing because firearm is the #1 weapon of choice for murders and violent crimes and that kind of thing. But when they look at other offenses, they wouldn't necessarily on a first time hearing just jail somebody. So too with the children, they put them through a process to rehabilitate them in terms of correcting the behavior. So sometimes they see the court might make an order and say, hey, this child, you must be inside, because when they do the background now, and the probation officer's report come and they say, hey, this child accustomed roaming in the streets, he accustomed being in the block, he being influenced by gangs, they will give you a curfew and say, hey, you must be inside by 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. You must join up. We order that you join a police club. We order that you join the scouts. We order that you join. Because the court now realize they need to be under full-time supervision. So I've seen too where the court order you to go to Mylat and send instructions to Mylat to accept this particular child because they believe there's the corrective measure that is needed in this instance. So as I said,
Nina is asking, when minors kill children, what is the outcome? And she puts up a very distraught face. I think she's assuming that serious crimes like that may be treated softly, which is not the case.
No. I could tell you off the bat that I know several instances where a child kill a child probably in a school. It happened in a few schools. And once the police put you before the court for murder, remember murder is only now through amendment to certain laws and through certain constitutional rights and things. We realize people getting bailed for murder now. But before, even minors when they appear before the court for charge of murder. And Mr. Fields and I, through one of the outreach in Shervon, not in particular that we had in 2017 when we were having the student empowerment, peace over violence store, we met about 2 youth men who was students when they committed the act of murder, and they were in jail without bail, right? So, you know, as I said, more serious offenses or capital offenses, meaning the sentencing period is 5 years or more, the court take it very seriously, generally.
So, Nina, let me just add that. So, the children court deals with children charged with criminal offenses. And yes, Sergeant Small spoke about some of the rehabilitative approaches that the court takes. But where serious crimes are committed, Sergeant Small, the normal laws apply throughout, right?
Yeah, and that's why I draw the example. That's why I draw the example, Shervon, that I know personally that children who commit acts of murder and things, they went to jail. They was in the jail only until recently, probably when they say bail for murder. But generally, capital offenses.
All other serious crimes, right? Not just murder, as you were saying. Fire.
Well, when I speak to capital offenses, I mean like serious crimes.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm breaking it down for the listeners too, Sarge. I'm breaking it down for the listeners as well, so they understand what specific category you're referring to.
Because we've seen cases, JC, with minors that have arms and ammunition cases, and it's the same. They had to get bail, the same protocol, the same way the bail could get revoked. Yeah. We've seen young men in the school that we know. You understand? And I visit them in the jail too, so I know that they get no slap on the wrist when they do serious things.
Right. So we want the listeners to understand that, because I don't want the listeners to walk away with the assumption that we just treating them with slap on the wrist, as you say, right? I think that's slap on the wrist for serious offenses.
Correct. But there's an understanding. I understand the approach that you're in. Court may look at, all right, if it's a fight, even if you say it's a bully, even if you say, well, all right, you're a robber man or you tax them and you call it robbery, I could understand the court at that point in time, based on the scenario, that would say, hey, here what's going on. This is a young man. Do we give him something that will then smear a certificate of good character for the rest of his life and take away all his opportunity, opposed to us instituting some kind of rehabilitative approach that we send him Mylat, where he wouldn't have an easy day and they may actually reform him. I know Shervon also mentioned to us that the court has sent a lot of those children to them when they didn't do anything in school, but they're uncontrollable home. Their parents, I think Sergeant Small, one of the things I hear most sometimes in persons who come into me to want the children to go to the children court is when the parents themselves can't control the children.
Right, and as they touch on that, Mr. Fields, we have had several cases where we know children as probably as small as 10, 11, 12 years old, who I personally get some of the parents to come in my office, and we do a CHINS application, a child in need of supervision application. And the court, in some cases, when they realize...
Sergeant Small, I don't want to stop you, but as we told people, I just giving people perspective. Remember, we also said, and instead, we want to treat with not only the parents of victims. So as we're going on this topic here now, we're treating with the parents of young children who might be perpetrating these acts in school or perpetrating acts at home, and they're uncontrollable. So Sergeant Small, go ahead. Like you get freeze up there, boy.
Yeah.
Sergeant Small?
Look like he froze
Stop
on there.
Yeah, look like he frozen there. So you understand it? So
Yeah. Let me read some of the comments there.
yeah, read some of the comments until he come back.
So Katian is saying, good afternoon, guys. We experienced the situation where Jaden's parents, and this is the young man who committed suicide, would have dealt with their situation by the book. And now these parents choosing the unorthodox and both yielding negative outcomes. Right? In my opinion, one of the recurring factor is the school in these instances failing to effectively perform their part. Right? And she goes on to say, until we remove the stigma assigned to mental health with being mad as opposed to taking care of our mental health, most of these issues will persist. Thanks for that comment, Katian. So
That's
just
just
what
more
you
about
think about that comment by Katian? Katian is saying that parents have used the negative or the wrong approach, which is they go and commit violence against a child who has been bullying their child, and they end up before the courts, right?
Right.
And then you have parents who didn't take that approach. They tried to do it the right way. They tried to go and report it to the police station, report it to the school, and report it everywhere, and yet still their child continued to endure bullying and harassment and everything else because of the slow reaction by those in authority. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest, the scenario isn't picture perfect in every organization, but there's always some form of redress. So, and I'm happy is that person or that commenter raised the point about the school having their own discipline matrix. So, the Ministry of Education, any school that any child attending, they have certain behavioral requisites and requirements to conform to. The school have rules, in other words. And if they don't conform to it, whether they assault another child or whatever, notwithstanding that the police have a responsibility, the school itself they have an incident log. So that is like located in the principal office. They must log every incident, whether is a verbal exchange, or they must log everything about the child behavior or conduct in the school. And they must submit these reports or these incident logs to the district Ministry of Education office, the district office. And if they find something happening in the school and the principal or the dean or the staff not treating it effectively, they can go to like the district office of the Ministry of Education. And if they go to the district office, where you have the senior person, there is usually a school supervisor 3. Then you have the school supervisor 2s and the school supervisor 1s. And if it is not dealt with at that level, you could still go to the Ministry of Education head office in Port of Spain and speak to the director school supervision, right? And then if the director school supervision and all to fail, you still could go request a meeting with the minister. That is how high you could go to ensure that you get some form of redress in terms of especially continuous.
What you're doing with your child all that time, and I'm saying that I could hear the callers, the listeners going and say this, right? What going on with my child all that time while I'm going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3?
Well, everything is a process. You as a parent have to find ways to protect your child, to safeguard them. So if it is in the interim, I know the school, the Ministry of Education, notwithstanding all of this, they have their student support services with the school social worker, the school guidance officer, who must play a role too, the school deans, the safety officer, so many different entities to ensure safety and security and the protection of children in the school. That even if that has failed and that haven't kicked in, we are the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Victim Support Unit to provide our psychosocial support for the child. We are the National Family Services. We have the mediation centers that are under the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. It has many different entities that provide that counseling service to be able to help the child cope and to go through the process. But I mean, we can't cut out due process. So if it is we are saying that is the situations where people think that they're not getting redress at one level, that doesn't mean you should just rock back and do nothing. You have to do something, and there's the steps that I advise people that they need to take. At the police level, they come to.
Go ahead, Sergeant. Go ahead.
You come to a station, you meet the average constable, you find, hey, I report this report of assault, and nothing going on. My child still going to school, if the threat's still there. Now that is where the community police in particular come in. When I hear a particular instance of bullying, now every single day I send my officers and so I accompany them at times to visit the schools. And when we meet a particular situation that we realize require some immediate intervention, No, we don't take the lead on this because remember, we can have an investigation taking place and we're trying to usurp due process too. So the school does something under the Ministry of Education called a case management session. And when we come to this session, even though a report was made and something pending in terms of the police involvement, we still try to encourage peace, because sometimes when you have this case conference and you have a child who assaulted the next child and that kind of thing, and all the parents in a room. Mr. Fields, I think I invite you to one or two case conference already.
Yeah,
right?
I've been
It could get real volatile. It could escalate into physical violence with the parents themselves. And that is why we try to be present in those case conference in serious situations. And we really try to quell a situation. We try to let the alleged offenders know, hey, we come in, we onto you. We're going to visit the class every day. We're going to, we really take a kind of serious approach in terms of being involved in the situation, that it do escalate now. But at the same time, due process taking its course at the same time.
So why want to add to that? Why want to add to that? Because all that being well and good, and we have to be understandable as we say. Everything about process, everything will have a time, and it just may not suit your liking as a parent. You may say it's taking too long, you may have your fear and your concern, which I mean, based on whatever happened to the child or happened to your child, could be a genuine fear and concern.
Yeah.
But the thing is, at the end of the day, you are your child's main protector. You are your child's main form or main source of security or guardian. And I have a similar situation with a single mother right now whose son is going in a particular school in the central area and was being bullied. And it reached a position she's escalating and doing all the things she needs to do through the ministry, through the TTPS, and it's taken a while. But she came to a conscious decision. She asked me, and I supported her, that she will remove the child at that point in time. Because based on what she is seeing with the child, she understood preservation of the child's life at this point in time, possibly usurped preserving the first 2 weeks or the first month in school. And though it's not an easy decision to make, and she started looking at all different things, transfers right now she's looking at, because she realizes that this may not be the place I want my son or my son to go to school. So if it comes to a position where you as the parent, you have the means to possibly put them in a paid school, if you don't have the means, you are persistent enough to try to get them a transfer in another school, or to make that, or to put them in a homeschooling program, or to have some kind of, you at some point have to know and make a solid determination. If that environment is truly as dangerous as you anticipate, is truly as life-threatening, is truly as mentally impacted on the child, because the situation might calm or something so, but the child's still going through, as we say, some mental health issue from what happened before. And it may mean that you need to put the child in some counsel now. So the problem might stop. Let me say it's a situation where the child was bullied, but it impacted the child in a way psychosocially, where the child now, because I know one of the things she was saying, that the child don't want to be in the dark anymore. You may realize now that based on what happened, even though the physical part may have ended, let me say we had a case management with parents and everybody came together, bygones with bygones, and no longer the child is suffering from violence. But the child now is suffering from the residue of the violence that took place before, and it's psychologically impacting them. And the parents still have a duty.
I want to say too, just today, a parent reached out to me, a primary school parent, and her child was being bullied. That is in the primary school you're talking about, And that child takes some kind of device and attempted to do some self-harm at the primary school level I'm talking about. So you don't know how, and when the parents ask the child, what is really bothering you? Then the child was able to say, this boy in his class, the child had recently lost the father. The child lost the father recently. And then the bully now was telling the child, hey, go your father dead. And just now your mother go dead. And that's why you're big and fat. You could imagine that. So parents, I hope parents really listen. Parents, your children, you need to really guide the children as to how they treat other people, how they carry about themselves. Because you cannot have your children outside there perpetrating acts against other children that could lead to them losing their life possibly. Because you want to tell the little primary school child try to harm herself. And it's because she was experiencing bullying. I consider that as real severe bullying because of the words and the kind
Correct.
of psychological and emotional impact that those words may have had on that little child. And you know, parents have to really step up and be cognitive, be aware. Go in school, check up on your children, find out how they're behaving, because some parents just move like they really don't care to know how the children behaving in the school. And in plenty cases, the children are alleged offenders. So, you know, I know we have a lot of victims, but some of the alleged offenders' parents need to step in and realize, even if the child be having behavioral issues, it have measures that could be taken to correct the children's behavior. But all in all, they must encourage good discipline, you know, with their children. The parent have first responsibility.
Let me remind the listeners of the numbers to call. Right, it's 222-8255 if you would like to engage Sergeant Small on air. 222-8255. If you're calling from the US or Canada, we have a toll-free number, 866-525-1099, 866-525-1099. And if you would like to send a WhatsApp message, it's 868-318-1021. Nina says here, she says, Sergeant Small, in New York City, schools park, I assume she's saying, schools park police vans outside waiting for children to leave school. If any fights break out, they put them in the van, carry them to the precinct, and charge them, and the parents must come. Most times, police run them off the streets.
Well, every country, the law is different. In Trinidad and Tobago, that after school patrol, we perform it every single day. We have certain junctions, like Montrose Junction is one, that we know if the children clash, they had the potential to fight and that kind of thing, because it have happened in the past. And that is a measure we put in place in the Central Division to make sure that that police presence at the Montrose Junction and even to target the schools where you had like plenty of the schools where you have the east and west and north and south and that kind of thing.
I don't know. Why aren't we seeing that approach in Shervon as consistent throughout Trinidad and Tobago? And not just...
That was going to be my next question, Sergeant Small. My next question was going to be that. Is that Central Division thing?
Yeah, I have engaged you directly, Sergeant Small, as you know, for my community, right? Things that I saw in my community that needed addressing, as you and I spoke about in the past. And I feel like, as about the only time I've been hearing community police on the ground, community police in schools, community police beating the parties in Shogunas.
Well, Shervon, to be honest, boy, I mean,
Go ahead. I want to hear too.
The things that we do in Central, it was, you know, of a stakeholder partnership and the input of everybody that have we in this place right now. And I try my best to share this knowledge and experience across the country, because we have one community policing secretariat that oversees the community policing operations throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And we really have a high standard in Central, and you really have to have a heart for this, because, you know, for the officers who work in our unit, if it wasn't passionate, you might have say, but Sergeant Small and Corporal Kana and them is real slave masters, boy, because we real serious about interventions in school and getting things done. And we don't tell our staff to do anything that we wouldn't go out and do, or that we do go out and do. But I really you know, it's not the first time I'm hearing this, but I am open to sharing my knowledge and experience and strategies across Trinidad and Tobago. And I liaise with my colleagues all the time, and you know, to share all the information. But to be honest, you know, the resources is another thing too.
But and you know, a lot of the things that was accomplished in Central Division was through partnership, not even with real resource. So maybe it may have a worthy gesture that in other areas where the community policing is present, I expect every division supposed to have a community police division. Every division have a section, right?
Yes.
Maybe it is a wise position to have some level of the very same multi-sectoral partnership of NGOs in that area. So even, because we can have members in other areas. I say, I am from Central, Shervon is in Arima, so you could have another duplicate of what is taking place in Central there.
Well, I happy to say that, because when both you and I started the education multi-sector committee in Central, the idea was to replicate this across the country. And to be honest, I must big up, mother, had a scholar, Patsy Joseph, retired assistant commissioner. She really tried to really gel the thing together to see the spread across the country with the similar approach to community policing, because it's very effective in Central, right? And for some reason, the traction with being able to share this idea and to show, and you have to be involved in this process too, to actually break down to them how we can have this multi-sector approach, especially in treating with the schools being replicated. And we can't say it's only the school, because we have had a multi-sector approach for every community outreach, for every school outreach. There's just our way. And if it is, we could really get the other divisions to function. Now, our first pillar in the strategic plan is community partnership, but we really need to effect it in terms of our day-to-day operations, not only for events, but in terms of how we operate day-to-day. It's important to have all the stakeholders involved, because through the multi-sector committee fields that we established in 2017 is why we have agencies like Children's Authority, like the Children's Court, and these entities. Even because Shervon gave us some good connection to in the past, where I meet up with some of the court administrators and we work with them so one-on-one that we could just send a WhatsApp message to get a presence or the involvement in a particular situation or in a school, in our intervention. It makes it so easy for us that I wish all my colleagues could see the value and when they really had this type of connection with other stakeholders. And prior to 2017, when we had that established education multi-sector committee, it was really a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of chain of command, things to pass through to get other stakeholders to work with us. But thankfully for us in Central, we established that, and it really makes it easier now for us to network and to get stakeholders to come and bring not only the physical resources, but the ideas, the innovations, and the strategies too, in treating with situations that we face today that affect society. So I mean, you all are a public group. I pray that soon I could probably ask a meeting with the Commissioner of Police and really push for this level of collaboration to happen across the country.
Sergeant Small, let me interject here. Let me interject here with another question in the same scenario that we are dealing with here. I live at Lebre, and I observe that there are lots and lots of children who are not going to school, right? And they hang out on blocks. They just hang out. Is this initiative merely to monitor what's happening around schools, or is the community policing extended to the blocks, or where youths are just hanging out and creating problems?
I'm happy you said that, caller. Mr. Fields, personally, we have had many situations, and I could bring a recollection to the one in Poker Road, where we met a household of children, and number of them was not attending school. And we personally take the marked police vehicle and took those children to Ministry of Legal Affairs. You link me up with somebody up there, and we get a birth certificate. And these children some of them were probably in the teenage years already, and they never was issued a birth certificate. And we get a birth certificate, and we got them in schools. And that's the extent of which we go here in the Central Division. And this approach continues because once you have any information about children not attending school, it's almost immediate that we're going to do a home visit. We're going to get the Children's Authority involved. We're going to probably get the Children's Court involved and take some kind of immediate and decisive action to remedy the situation. And sometimes it means, like in some cases, people, to be honest, some of the people in Trinidad that we expect to have all the knowledge about the process of doing things and whatever. Just imagine, we still have children in Trinidad and Tobago who probably at the age of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and was never issued with a birth certificate. Right? So simple things like those, if it is and I'm saying this too, to put it out there, if it is your neighbor or whoever had children and they're not attending school and they're not being homeschooled, you contact Children's Authority. They, on our first approach, will reach out to us. And once we have the information, we're going to do the visit. Across the country, this is though. Because once you report something to Children's Authority of that nature, because to deprive a child of education in Trinidad and Tobago under the Children's Act is a criminal offense. But we have cases where we know people living in some real poverty-stricken conditions, and they just some of them just can't afford it, right, in terms of the resources. And in plenty cases too, we have to try to get stakeholders to probably sponsor a uniform and a book bag and a sneakers. I mean, they get in the box lunch, you know, but even the clothes to reach the school, some of them do have. We even start to encourage schools, the children that leaving, let we form this book pool so that the children who can't afford could get books, could get uniform. And, you know, all these are things that other people could do across the country to make sure that every child benefit from education, you know?
I want
Good,
just
good, good.
this piece of information out here to the public. So I'm looking at the judiciary's website and the section that speaks to the children court. And it says here, I think this is useful information for the listeners, as Sergeant Small was talking about different things you could do when your child is facing difficulties with another child, right? I think part of the reason the caller earlier spoke about anger, but then part of the reason is also probably sometimes ignorance. You don't know what to do, what your options are, right? It says here
Yeah.
that there's an avenue called private applications, right? And this is a criminal action that is initiated by a private citizen other than a police officer. The complaint is against another person he or she suspects or believes is guilty of a crime and presents an accusation before the proper authorities for investigation. It also includes applications involving protection orders. So this is what we call in the court long time a private complaint, right? And this is where an individual, without a police charge being laid, could go to any, well, we're talking here for specific to children, right? So you could go to the children court. But if it's an adult, you can go to any of the courts, right, throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and you make an application for a private complaint, a private complaint. And what the court will do is take the information put into the application and issue a summons for the person to appear before the court to determine if a criminal charge is there to be answered by this individual, right? So that is an option for persons who are looking for what can I do, right? If you find you're not getting redress in the schools, you find you're not getting redress in the police district or station you're going to, and you find you're not getting redress at the levels that Sergeant Small listed out, there's an option to go to the children court and file a private complaint, right? I'll post the link in our chat with all of the different things that and services that the children court offers.
Valuable information, Shervon. Shervon, I just want to add too. I remember earlier caller or messenger mentioned that the police somewhere in the US gather the children and arrest them and take them to the station in the police bus and that kind of thing. Now, when Trinidad, I just want to outline a brief process. When a police officer arrests a juvenile for any offense, any criminal offense, we can't just take them to the normal police station based on the Children's Act, and it has something called the Judges Rules for Children. Now, the Judges Rules is like a safeguard to protect the police against allegations, and is a safeguard to make sure that the alleged offender rights not being infringed. So one of the things that we must do when we arrest a juvenile is inform duty counsel. So these are attorneys that appear for the children free from the legal aid and advisory unit. They work closely with us too in the central division. And the child must be taken to somewhere called a booking center. Now, we have our special victims unit at the police service, and the special victim unit encompasses the child protection unit, the sexual offenses unit, and the gender-based violence unit. So when you go to the booking center, the officers there who are trained to deal with these children or juvenile offenders, we go through the process of laying the charges and that kind of thing at the booking center. So a police not supposed to just take children once they're under the age of 18 to any police station throughout Trinidad and Tobago. They must go to the booking center. A duty counsel attorney must be. We're not even supposed to take juvenile offenders and place them in marked police vehicles unless it is a real situation where we don't have any other means of transporting them now. But we're really supposed to even transport them in an unmarked police vehicle. So in the way we deal with juvenile offenders, even the TTPS as an organization have certain things to be guided by through the Children's Judges Rules.
Sergeant Small, I want to ask you.
That's not one thing is one. I think because at the end of this, we had to be able to come to a consensus. All this information is good. all of them receive warrant, some type of procedure, some type of protocol, and will take some type of time. Let us be realistic, right? Our parents today choosing or considerate of going the right way or saying the fastest way for me to get justice is to take it in my into my hands? Or is it really a situation that we have in right now where it really may be sometimes that we let our anger push us in the wrong direction? Because reasonably, the things we are all outlining here, if we consider the judicial position you just presented, Shervon, you could make a private complaint. You're not going to get that in one day. You're going to have a waiting period. You're going to have some due process to follow. If we follow the procedure, what Sergeant Small is talking about as well, if you're not getting justice through all the systems of the discipline matrix at the school, whether it's from guidance counselor and then carry all the way up to minister, social worker, all these things, are you willing to go through that process? Whether if it's a process with the TTPS, are you willing to say, I'm going by the constable or going by the community police officer, and if I'm not getting redress there, I'm waiting to see the senior soup. If I don't hear from the senior soup, I'm going to go to police complaints, I'm going to go to the commissioner and see if I get resolved. What is it? So is it that there's no redress, or we sometimes, because we are so inflamed, because we are so upset, because it's a emotionally frustrating position because it's a children being harmed, is it that we even though these things exist or even though they may be there, that we're not even willing to try to see if those realms will work either? How many of us have tried to see these realms who are complaining about them? I am saying some have and some have become frustrated along the way. I'm not saying no. But is this the way that we are thinking is the best way to deal with it? That still comes down to a decision by the parent. So
I agree with you.
You understand? It still comes to a decision by the parent to take, it still comes to the parent to take a mature decision as into which route am I going to? Because the first thing you hear, Shervon, some people say, see, all that bacchanal me ain't going through that, you know. Like too much, then beat up my child, I don't want to hear nothing. So ignorance and not knowing is there is one thing. But sometimes anger, as the man suggesting, is an next, you know. Because now you could have this information here, and some people may be hearing it and still saying, that is too much red tape. And maybe in some regard, it may be too much red tape before you get redress. Something we could look at as well. But really and truly, as I said before, the protection of your child comes down to you, the parent. So if you are saying, I am willing to go through the red tape, and in your assessment as best as humanly possible, as you realize that your child may still be in immediate danger, my standpoint may be different to other people. I removing my child. Even if it means I have to keep him home and teach him myself for a while, or teach him myself for a while. If you think it is a scenario where the child, because as I said, as we saw in the situation with Jaden, right? Or not, let me use this as an example. It could be a situation where the immediate threat of violence is no longer present, has diffused, but it still have a long-lasting impact on the child. So that when the child see the next child, and to come and think about it, to be quite honest, this happened to my son when he was younger, my older son. I don't know if you remember JC, when he was going to Edinburgh 500. And he was I removed him from the school for months and before I put him in the next school.
Yeah.
So long and short of the story, I now remember that. But I took quick action as fast as I could. I wasn't getting no assistance from Ministry of Education too. But my first move, and what triggered that for me, is that even though I went and I dealt with the bully and the bully's parents, my son, one morning dropping him to school, when he was walking in front of the classroom, he afraid to pass the class. So I know leaving him in the school where he was afraid to even walk past a class, psychologically could not be in his best interest. When I was leaving the school, he run out the class and run me down. So I knew as myself as a parent, and we took him out of school, his mother and I, for nearly a month before we get him in the next school. But I saw what it did to him psychologically to try to pass his first year class. Just walking past the class, he was afraid. So at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do as a parent to protect your child.
And parents could be,
child in the end of the day.
and brother feels parents could be vigilant, but not violent. Right?
Correct.
They could be vigilant and not violent. So what you talk about there in terms of your action, that was vigilance. That was serious, decisive action, but you never use violence.
But exactly. So the thing is, even if I had chosen to, it wouldn't that correct the mental problem he was going through still. So that's what I'm trying to show the parents too. Even if you say you go and you retaliate and you get vengeance for your child physically, a child may still have an impact after, and the best thing may really be to move your child from the school anyway. That is for you to know and for you to assess.
I want to say something too. Just yesterday, we had a little online workshop with some children in a preschool. And I just remember my sister, Diamond Small, was saying, we have a culture where we as parents, there's how we just deal with some of our children in Trinidad and Tobago, across the board. Don't let nobody hit you. Hit him back. Don't take no lash. Cuff him down. And I go come and think, that is something familiar to all.
Yeah.
You understand? So we have to kind of move away from that, because you might be telling them, it comes like you inciting them to be a particular way. And they could go out as the aggressor and end up a victim, and end up losing their life too.
Correct.
So we not encourage that level of violence, in this, especially in these times we living in now.
Correct. And another point I had raised to some. Oh, sorry, Shervon, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I segue. I'm going in a different direction. So make your point first.
Right. No, and then even for your own personal safety, because Sergeant Small, we can attest. People may think it's stupid, right? Sometimes you go in to inflict violence upon the child. You don't know where they don't know the neighborhood that child come from. Some children you don't know yourself. And Sergeant Small, you had my testimony that there are some children who are going to school that not afraid to shoot you as a parent. That is a reality. Things we see and hear for ourselves. That there are children that have been that not afraid. They ain't going and call mommy, The parents for them too. That is a real thing. So it could lead to a consequence now that not only you in danger, your entire family in danger. I know if you remember Sergeant Small, a particular young man threatened the whole family.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He threatened the whole family, and based on who the young man was, we know that it's not no empty threat.
Yeah, and he ended up in the jail for shooting, that same young man.
Boy.
And he name calling a few murders, and that was a child going to school that you could imagine some parent coming to want to, you have to be, for us, the police and even stakeholders, it's really serious business to try to address these issues in the school. We see firsthand the importance of addressing these issues because they had the potential to escalate into community violence.
And Sergeant Small, the point I was going to was the police response, right? How the police response could help deter some of these things, because we, unfortunately, in the association, and we have received calls, which I have passed some to you, right, as well, where parents report, or even persons who are physically assaulted by children made reports to the police, and they get that, but a small thing response. Why you want to get a child locked up for that small thing? You understand? Even yesterday, I was sharing with Fields. There's an individual who we referred, thankfully, to the seniors of the police as well as to the children court who was assaulted, and the matter is before the court. Even now, the person was telling me yesterday, Sergeant Small, that the police officer who laid the charge was is still trying to get them to drop the charge. the person
The
is
police,
telling
the
them,
police, the police, the police, that
saying,
behavior, the police should be reported because no
yeah,
police
telling
should be
them that
trying to
you
discourage
think,
people from pursuing a court matter. That is almost perverting the course of justice.
yeah, and so we were shocked when the person was telling us, the police telling them, but why you are getting child in trouble for small thing like that? You're trying to mash up the child life. Them trying to discourage the person from going forward with the matter. Is it, Sergeant? Is it a training issue? Is it that police don't understand what the children court, the purpose of the children court is? That is really rehabilitative, as
So,
opposed to what is
for,
it? What causing that
for,
disconnect?
for the it can't be a training issue because for the police to put the alleged offender before the court in the first place, he understands that the law was broken, it had sufficient evidence to pursue a charge, and that is why the person is before the court. So he understands that. But you know, to be honest, in every organization, a shame that that officer making those kind of comments to the victim involved in the situation. And I outright saying that behavior, we shouldn't be fiddling with it. We should be reporting that type of behavior so that senior officers could get involved and, you know, probably, and the police resources through the way that the police services as an organization, we don't allow for them kind of disrespect and indiscipline and bad behavior and that kind of thing. And even if the police service have to reassign that officer and assign a new officer as the appearing officer to appear in court on behalf of the organization, we have the means to also do that. So I'm saying that behavior where the police reluctant to do his work, in other words, I think it should be reported. And when they report it, they could request or ask for another officer to be assigned to this matter.
But
because
who are they
they're not.
reporting those things to, Sergeant? So because other than that case, we get things where people say, I went to the police, I tell them this, and the police say nice small thing, or they can't talk that out, or they can't think.
We have the police complaints our internal complaints unit, as well as the professional standards bureau. You know, those are two entities that I suggest that the person can go to, and the professional standards and the police complaints unit. That is my suggestion.
But Sergeant Paul, even before that, sometimes they have a senior. So I don't know what you say.
Let me just ask you, Sergeant, something. Would you say that this division of the police, the community police and affiliated arms that look after the protection and the disciplining of children, is it under-resourced? Is there a cry that you would like to make now publicly as for resources to initiate all those ideals that you're talking about?
I am. Let me say it. They're grossly under-resourced. You understand? And the thing is, it's not just under-resourced when it comes to, I would say, vehicles and these things. I think manpower. And I think part of that is because of culture too. I think some policemen themselves see community policing as soft policing. Some of them must do that. Is not for we. We want the Galil and we want the GEB and we want these kind of things. I'm not seeing the I think the only time community policing start to sound attractive was after Sergeant Small and the Central Division start putting it out in the manner like that and got the support, I believe, from the heads for the first time to start putting it out in a meaningful way so that the community could see it differently, but even the officers see it differently too. Because I don't know if you remember, and I, as a civilian from the outside, Sergeant Small, I started to see people from in the community itself becoming and want to be police, like Adrian Seeley. Then apart from just the community, people from the police wanted to leave other areas to come central community policing. So I think is not only is under-resourced with manpower, because I don't think that it's we see in the right culture and to even deal with culture again in another perspective to what Shervon was talking about as well. That is a cultural problem too. Why you think the police say, boy, make up, but your wife XYZ, go home and make up that. Sometimes they get training all the time. I know how much training sessions I was with them with domestic violence, and they shouldn't do this and they shouldn't do that. But culturally, you were taught certain things as a man, culturally, you was taught certain things as a woman, and culturally, you go and you put it out in your job. Many people just go in the different jobs and do that, you know. You see people in the bank doing it, bringing the bad culture in the bank. See people in licensing office doing it, bringing the bad culture inside of it. And sometimes they meet a bad culture in the institution itself as well. When I talk about licensing office. So
I have to.
culture to me
We have 1 minute again. So we
But
have
Mr. Prince, you know, I must say, we have had senior officers in the past who was really passionate about this approach, like Stephen Williams. I must say, Mr. Kenny Nur Mohammed, who came up with the idea that the police service need to have a community policing section. And that was as a result of he attending an international policing conference. And when he realized, you know, the approach they were taking in terms of community policing, he immediately introduced it to the police service in 1996. And I am seeing now, where we are now in 2024, I am seeing the need for some strengthening of the community policing, its resources, because when you look at how critical the Sir Robert Peel and they in the 1800s say that this thing should be almost like a simultaneous police force function, you know, because the kind of resources that needed for you to really be effective in the type of, you know, based on the type of work that we require to do day to day, you really need, the requisite manpower to go there and to really, and I think even as we strengthen that approach, Mr. Fields, which is a social crime prevention type approach, I think we will see a lot of great results across Trinidad and Tobago. As a matter of fact, don't take my word for it. You were present in 2019 when for the first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, the police service won the IDB President's Award for Service Excellence. And you hear the comments of Ms. Paula May Weeks and they at the time, in terms of how they felt, they was blown away that police are actually doing these things, and we won a national award for that. So it's not just a talk shop. We was also able to reduce crime in the enterprise area, which was a real trouble area, because of a multi-sector approach, because of a whole community policing approach. By 87%, we reduced murders and violent crimes in the enterprise area. And I say that this approach could be replicated, but you really have to put the resources and what is needed, the right stakeholders need to be involved for it to be effective. So across the country, there is really need for us to spread this multi-sector approach and to actually establish our education multi-sector approach to treat with school violence, because we know it's something that have been a topic for a number of years now.
Well, guys, we see we reached the end of the time. We didn't get to go on any other topic. We didn't even get to flush out this properly. So much more. So Sergeant Small, definitely.
I had some other questions to ask myself. The children.
You're giving us extra time today?
Yeah, we need time. We need
who needs some kind of
yeah, we had to have a second version of this. I mean, for me to end up, I does always say, Mark is saying something?
No, I said we need a part 2.
Yeah, we need a part 2. I mean, Sergeant Small will know I always tell him that to me, the heart of policing is the community police. I always try to promote them. I always try to put them forward. Is my humble view as well. When you're recruiting police, if it was me and I was the police commissioner, I put in a batch of recruits for community police. Specific for that. You're coming in for community policing and everybody else everywhere after, because you just don't want to take people from all over who don't have the heart for community policing. That is something you need to commit your heart. You need to have layman service in your bones. You have to have passion and love for people. You have to be able to communicate with the public. And the community police is such a supportive arm. Even the other police who going out to do the tactical jobs as well. So to me, as I said, I will continue to endorse community policing and the partnerships, the multi-sectoral approach and partnerships, particularly to what I see was done in the Central Division to be duplicated in other places. But if we be honest, Sergeant Small can say it, the reason it isn't is because every new mayor have a new way. And that is the unfortunate part about it. You don't say it before you get in trouble. I know you want to say nothing, I say it. Every new mayor have a new way. And sometimes all the good work that took place before the mayor does have to stop and start over. And I think that way of doing things needs to change, or else we'll always be stopping where we reach and resetting, rewinding the tape and playing it over back to the same location again.
I say feels for senator.
Yeah, like just say that. You don't say more like that. You don't put yourself in that bacchanal.
Hey, Trinidad and Tobago, it was lovely. Thank you all for joining us on today's Hard Talk program. Thanks for all the comments. We had so much. Kevin, Nina, Tony, Marcus, quite a number of commenters. Coyote, thank you all for engaging the program. Katiana and many others. It's been a pleasure. Mac, thanks to you, the Power 102
Yes, my
family,
brother.
as always, for creating this space for men. We appreciate you all and thank you dearly.
Thank you,
All right,
gentlemen.
guys.
Thank you,
See you next
Sergeant.
week.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I really look forward to our part where Rondell, I'll hold you to that.
Yes, Mac. I'll keep him to that.
Yes,
Take care.
good. Thank you, gentlemen, and have an enjoyable weekend and be safe.
Thanks you too, man.
Yes. That's it for today's edition of Hard Talk with the Fathers Association. I want to thank the amount of people that participated today, and we look forward for another informative and connecting edition next Friday.